Jeff Hall, depending on if you want to use bowl games or not, which were added on, sometime in the mid-2000s, I believe, as far as their statistical records, has about 400 points as the all-time leading scorer. That's never going to be broken. Much like Emmitt Smith's career rushing record in the NFL, Jeff Hall's record is never going to be broken. Why? Because in the NIL and transfer portal days, just like Tennessee is doing now with bringing in a place kicker, why waste a scholarship on a high school guy? Why not wait and see if somebody has success at an Indiana or a smaller school? Because more than any other position at kicker, you can simulate and you can project what they would do at your particular school. So I don't think that record, all-time scoring record that Jeff Hall holds, is going to be ever broken, because you essentially have to play 4 years, which he did. And I don't think you're going to see that out of a kicker ever again.
Yes, and it's 371 is the career scoring record. Just found it.
I think when you add in bowl games, he's close to 400. So there's no way that Charles Campbell, who's the Indiana kicker who transferred in, or anybody else, because he just has one season left, is ever going to break that record. I would argue
Josh Heupel's going to score 400 touchdowns in a season, so 400 extra points.
Right. I would argue that is more unbreakable than Emmitt Smith's record. And nobody's going to give the ball to one running back nearly as much in the NFL.
I mean, I agree. That's not Tennessee's most unbreakable record, though.
There's a few out there. If you want to go down that path a little bit, I'm up for that. There's a few unbreakable records out there. The non-scored upon team.
That's never happening again.
Yeah. Andy Spiva's 547 career tackles. That's pretty good. Again. Chuck Webb's 294 rushing yards in a game.
That's never happening again.
No. Peyton Manning's 11,201 passing yards.
I mean, that definitely could happen, but Nico would have to start for 3 years. And I'm not sure any quarterback's going to start for 3 years at Tennessee anymore.
Fuad Revaiz's 850-plus yard field goals in a season?
No, because here's this. That's an interesting one. I think I forget the record at Tennessee, but the longest kick made in Tennessee football history is not going to be broken, and I think Fuad Reveiz has it. And the reason I don't is you could kick off a tee during that time, and you can't kick off a tee anymore.
Right. I'm going to, out of that group, we'll just go ahead and make this a smoky hot take. Out of that group, it is obviously, I mean, we have to take the 15 straight shutouts, right? That's never going to be broken. But
never going to be broken again.
Yeah, I'm not going to say Peyton Manning because of the passing offenses and the way they are now. I'm not going to say Chuck Webb because anything can happen on one particular day. Fuad Revaiz's 850-plus yard field goals, sure, that's a factor. But I'm going to go ahead and say above all of those, other than the consecutive shutout streak, is Jeff Hall. I don't think that his record will ever be broken at Tennessee. When we do celebrate,
what about Tee Martin's record?
Of the consecutive passes completed?
Yeah.
I think if you wanted to, you could go out and break that record with a bunch of screen passes. And
Or what about Joey Kent?
I always thought that was the lamest record. Do you remember the South Carolina game where they're throwing little flat passes and like the easiest
passes? But they were scoring touchdowns and all that. Which there was a touchdown pass he threw over the middle into double coverage. It was crazy he completed that.
Right. There was you're right. There was that one pass, but other than that, it was a lot of passes that you and I could have.
Well, Tee Martin acknowledged that. Tee Martin wasn't aware he was breaking the record, and he was like, I didn't understand why Coach Cutcliffe called this screen right here. I had no idea why. And apparently everybody else knew, but he had no idea. And
it was an ego thing for Tennessee's coaching staff to be able to say, hey, we don't need Peyton Manning to be able to put together a great passing offense. I thought that was an ego thing. They had established themselves in the run, and they wanted him to get that record because T took a back seat and that they didn't let him do a lot, Caleb. So I thought it was cool he got the record. I do think it's kind of the lamest record in sports.
What about Joey Kent's career 2,800 receiving yards? Just because, I mean, you'd have to be a go-to receiver for 3 years nowadays, which you're just not.
Well, okay. Do this for me. Look up, just for instance, Jalen Hyatt. What did he end up with last year? What did he end up with his career? He did have a question whether or not he was coming back for another year. So Kent's record is what again?
28-14. Which, and you're right, the Jalen Hyatt, he had over 1,200 yards last year in 1769. So if he came back for another year and repeated last year, he would have broken Kent's record. But is a receiver going to come back ever? Like, if you're a 1,000-yard receiver.
See, I don't think Jalen Hyatt was a very polished receiver. Now, I know that infuriates some people, but from talking to scouts, not just my eye, but I don't think he was polished. I think that an argument could have been made to come back, and then the NIL money, if it continues to increase, might make some decisions tougher. We're seeing that in college basketball, Caleb. We just haven't seen it in football yet.
True. Reggie White's 15 sacks. I mean, that could be broken, but I just think Reggie White was such a special player. You had like theoretically, I don't think you're ever going to get another Reggie White.
So smoky hot take, you got to pick one record other than the consecutive shutout that will not be broken.
One record other than the consecutive shutout record that will not be broken. And you're going with Jeff Hall's career points.
Yes.
I'm going with Floyd Revisa's 60-yard field goal. And the 50. Reason... No. He ate 50-yard field goals in a season, but he has the all-time length record because he hit a 60-yarder. Okay,
so that surprises me to go there, because I could see at the end of the half somebody taking a shot at a 62 or 61.
I want to look this up, but I don't know many college kickers that hit 60-yarders. I see it in the NFL, but I usually see it in domes and controlled climates, and Tennessee never plays in domes or controlled climates. So I'm going to stick with Vlad Revisa's 60-yard field goal. Oh, actually, no. I take that back. No. It's Andy Spiva's 547 career tackles. That's never going to be broken because of the way they measure tackles nowadays is totally different from back then.
Right. And Mr. Jones pointed out Derek Barnett broke the sack record, but Caleb was referring to the single season sack record.
Yeah, so single season sack record.
Yeah, Derek Barnett broke Reggie White's career sack record, but we were talking about the single season record. So I bumped into a gentleman yesterday who had a great comparison, I thought, for Josh Heupel to an all-time great. And we've gone down the Steve Spurrier road, haven't we? We've done that quite a bit. But here's the road he went down. And I wanted to bounce this off you, particularly, Caleb, because you were such a football historian. He said Bobby Dodd. Bobby Dodd, now this is a long time, very successful high school coach that was in the state of Georgia. So he knew their program because they like to woo him and get his players. And so he knew Georgia Tech, he knew Georgia, and he said Bobby Dodd would have volleyball games the Friday before, instead of walkthroughs, the Friday before Saturday games. Now, Josh Heupel's not going to do that. That's a little absurd, and Georgia made fun of them because of it. However, as a player's coach, I think there's an interesting comparison to Bobby Dodd. I think you throw in a little Steve Spurrier, and suddenly we have a good feeling of what Josh Heupel is. We got to remember, it's only been 2 full seasons and 2.5 years. So I found that very interesting. What did you think of the Bobby Dodd comparison? This guy just laid on me at the gym yesterday.
I mean, that's a good one. Bobby Dodd was a legend at Georgia Tech and a legendary player for Tennessee back in the 20s, probably Neyland's first great player. I believe Bobby Dodd, I'm trying to remember if he... Yeah, so one of the things that was unique about Bobby Dodd was Neyland was famous for the single wing, which was fashionable in the 20s. That's what made Bobby Dodd a star. But he was willing to transition that and use some of that to develop his wing T offense that he ran at Georgia Tech. Similar to how Josh Heupel was part of the Mike Leach air raid and then developed his own offense when he went to Tennessee from the air raid, but also included the veer and things like that. So that's a very interesting one. And also another comparison, Bobby Dodd took over a once great program. If you guys remember, Georgia Tech was the essence of college football in the South in the 19-teens and 1920s. And they had kind of fallen off. And then Bobby Dodd takes over and revives them, just like Josh Heupel took over Tennessee that had been a program that had fallen off. And so there are some similarities.
I just knew Caleb would crush this topic. Mr. Jones says Heupel and Mike Vrabel are similar, except they're on opposite sides of the ball.
No, they're not.
Okay, well, don't get overly animated. You just get it too excited. Him and
don't give Mike Vrabel that much credit.
I think Vrabel's a solid.
Sticking with Todd Downing. Speaking of drunken people, okay.
Drunken off.
Todd Downing gets a DUI somehow between. If you remember this, the Titans beat Green Bay last year on a Thursday night. Thursday night football game is at like 11:30. Todd Downing gets a DUI in Nashville at like 2:15. When the heck did he get drunk? They don't allow alcohol on the team playing. And then the Titans didn't win a game the rest of the year.
Drunken Todd Downing.
And Mike Vrabel stuck with that guy. No, don't do that. Don't do that. How dare you, Mr. Jones?
It's a little harsh. All right. What do people need to do, Jacob Warren?
What's up, everybody? This is Jacob Warren asking you to like, subscribe, and share. Dave needs this.
Yes, Dave does. So hit the like and subscribe button, share with your friends, and let them know that we're live each and every weekday at 10 a.m. on YouTube and wherever you stream, the Twitter as well, if Elon Musk doesn't ruin that.